Hello there and welcome to this latest edition of Bryan Lomax Movie Talk. This is going to be the second part of my complete run through all of my DVDs and Blu-rays. Now, originally this video was 2 hours long and it was meant to be just the final part of a two-part series. However, I've had trouble kind of uploading this video in its 2-hour format. For whatever reason, I've tried a few times. The sound keeps going out of sync, weird things keep happening. So what I've decided to do is split this video up into two. So you will now be getting part 2, which is this one, and this will be about an hour long, and then the next part 3, which will be the final part of this run through, will come a couple of weeks later. So with that in mind, I hope you enjoy this video and thank you for watching. Left Behind! Yes, this is the original Left Behind starring Kirk Cameron, which was recently remade with Nicolas Cage. I believe that film is as equally as bad as this. This isn't a great film by any stretch of the imagination, and its theology is a little bit warped, I've got to say. But it's entertaining in a kind of it's so bad it's good kind of way. Which is why I bought the third film in the franchise, Left Behind World at War. Still not seen it yet. I'm sure I'll get around to it. Legends of the Fall, really great film. As I pointed out in my first video for this, Edward Zwick is a really reliable, really strong director, and I do like a lot of his films. This being a really good one. Great performance by Anthony Hopkins and Brad Pitt, and a really interesting scene in which Brad Pitt fights a bear. Let the Right One In. I watched 20 minutes of the remake Let Me In, which I just lost interest, to be honest. If you want to watch one of them, watch this one. It's far superior and it has a lot more atmosphere to it, I think. Legendary. Yeah, I expected this film to be terrible, to be honest, because it's one of them Wrestling Federation produced movies. I'm not big on wrestling, so I haven't. WWE Studios, okay. Yeah, they made it, so I wasn't expecting much, but it's got Kyra Sedgwick in, which is usually quite reliable, and she didn't prove me wrong. This is actually quite a good, entertaining film. Life as We Know It, bit of a chick flick that I got cheap when I left Blockbuster, when Blockbuster was closed down. It's alright, it's some entertaining moments, not going to blow you away. Life is Beautiful, I'm reliably told, is a really, really great film, won all kinds of Oscars, and that's why I own it, but I still haven't seen it yet. I will get around to it at some point. Lion King, probably my second favourite all-time Disney film after Beauty and the Beast. Really good, strong stuff, some great themes in it. Little Mermaid, probably my third favourite Disney animated film, actually. Yes, really love it. It took me a while to get around to seeing this. I thought the idea of watching a film about a mermaid was just a little bit too much of a girly stretch for me, but when I eventually got around to seeing it, I was like, my goodness, it's actually a really good film. Lives of Others, not seen it yet, but I'm told reliably that it's quite good. Lonely Place to Die, another one I've not seen. I just collect DVDs without actually watching them. Looper, really good science fiction film. I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt does a fantastic job of playing a young Bruce Willis, looking like him without looking like him. It's a bit weird, gets the mannerisms right, I think. But some really great concepts, and Emily Blunt is fantastic. The animated version of Lord of the Rings, really gutted they didn't get to finish this. The director, Ralph Bakshi, he basically his funds ran out and the studio refused to support him to finish the film, so they just kind of tied it up halfway through or towards the end of the Two Towers, really. So yeah, but other than that, I actually enjoyed this film. I think it's a really good blueprint for what Jackson did with his Lord of the Rings trilogy. Speaking of which, Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers and Return of the King extended editions. For me, it's one long film, not 3 separate films, because you can't take one part away and still kind of allow the other two to stand on their own, which I believe you can do with a film like Star Wars. If we never got Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi, the original Star Wars would still stand on its own. You can't say that with The Lord of the Rings. It is, for me, one of the only true trilogies So yeah, but it's just one complete film, and it's fantastic. Second best trilogy ever made after the Dark Knight trilogy. Loser, quite a good film. It's kind of, it was marketed really as the American Pie style of movies, but I think it's got a lot more heart than those films. It's got a lot more character to it, and it's got a lot more to say, really. Yeah, it's quite a nice little film. Lost Boys, one of my favourite vampire films of all time. Really good film by Joel Schumacher when he was making decent films. And Kiefer Sutherland's got a lot of charisma in it. I remember this from when I was very young. It was one of those films that stuck with me from my teenage years. Lovely Bones, very underrated, I think. These scenes in the in-between don't quite work as well as you'd like them to, but all the stuff back in the real world is, for me, was very, very gripping, especially when I watched it the second time. The first time I watched it, I wasn't married and didn't have a child, but second time I watched it, I had a child, and just all the stuff that Mark Wahlberg's character goes through, I really resonated with, and it made a huge impact on me. So maybe who you are as a person, your life, kind of where your life is at that point, kind of really affects how you view that film. It certainly did for me. It's a really good film. Lust Caution has some really graphic sex scenes in it, and that's kind of what everyone fixated on when it came out. But if you take those two sex scenes out, this is one of the best political thrillers ever made. It is fantastic. The acting, the performances in it are really stunning, and the script is just brilliant, and what the characters go through, and some of the twists and the turns in it really have you on edge. It's directed by Ang Lee, who did Crouching Tiger, and he's done a lot of genre hopping. To be honest, he's worked in nearly every genre you can think of in film, and he always excels. So yeah, really great film. Highly recommend that. Made in Dagenham, one of my favourite British films. It didn't get as much attention as it should have done, let's put it that way. It's just a real great central performance by Sally Hawkins, and some nice support from Bob Hoskins, but yeah, it's just a really good, strong British film, on a par with anything like Billy Elliot, easily. And Maid of Honour, that's my wife's. I watched it once with her, didn't like it, but she loves it. I think it's a guilty pleasure for her. She knows it's bad, but she can't help herself, she still likes it. Magnolia, in my top 5 films of all time. This is such an amazing, profound experience to watch. It's very hard, it's an 18, and it deserves that rating, but just, man, it just... I'm not going to talk about it, because check out my review for the film and another video I did in it when I go into it in a bit more depth, but there's so much meat in this film. It has so much to say. Outstanding film. Made in Manhattan, not interested. The Majestic, didn't like this film the first time I saw it. I thought it was a bit too cheesy, and then I got into films by Frank Capra, rewatched this and realised just how much this was trying to be a Frank Capra film, and succeeds. And I really loved this the second time around. It's an unapologetically saccharine kind of film, a feel-good movie, the kind that Capra would make if he was still alive today, and a great performance by Jim Carrey. Really good film. Management, not seen it. Man of Steel, one of the most underrated superhero movies. It's divided a lot of people. I think it's fantastic. I cannot wait to see the follow-up, Batman v Superman, and I think this is a stunning start to the new DC universe. And if the rest of the DC movies are on par with this, then Marvel have really got some strong competition. The Man Who Wasn't There, I don't really remember a right lot about this film. It's still a good, strong Coen Brothers film. Great performance from Billy Bob Thornton. I do remember liking it quite a lot, but can't really remember that much from it. The Matrix, sci-fi classic, just brilliant. Wachowski's best film still. They shouldn't have made the sequels. Should have stood alone as the classic that it is. Lots of ideas in there, lots of themes that really resonate with me, about identity, about who we are, about what our place is in the universe. But yeah, really good stuff. Mask of Zorro, really great action film by director Martin Campbell, who reinvigorated the Bond franchise twice, and does a fantastic job with this one. Master and Commander, Peter Weir, on fine form. Just one of the best films I've seen in which you have like galleons kind of fighting against each other. It's just really good period piece. Attention to detail is really great, and some fine support by Paul Bettany too. Meet Bill. This is a US import. I don't think this film has been released in the UK. At the time, I don't know why I don't know why I got this actually. Oh, yeah, a friend of mine actually lent it me, and I liked it. So yeah, I think he ended up giving it me because I liked it so much. I don't know, maybe if I saw it again I wouldn't, but at the time I really liked it. It's a good film from what I remember. Memento, check out my review for this if you haven't seen it. Really great Christopher Nolan movie. Mercury Rising, I've not seen this, to be honest. I remember it getting poor reviews, but I bought it because it was like 25p, so I thought, I'll give it a watch, give anything a watch, providing it's not porn. The Messenger, again, really great reviews, not seen it, looking forward to it. I like Woody Harrelson. Miami Vice, not Michael Mann's strongest film, actually probably his weakest. I've not seen his latest, Black Hat, but from his filmography, this is probably his weakest film. However, it's still entertaining, very entertaining. It's got a lot of really decent action sequences in it. Just not as much character development as some of his other work. The Miami Vice TV series, I haven't watched it. Picked it up in a charity shop for very little money. Michael Clayton. I've been making the case for Tony Gilroy for a long time. I think his directorial effort of the Bourne franchise is seriously underrated, and I just think he's a fantastic writer, and I think he's equally a fantastic director, and this film proves it. Michael Clayton, brilliant performance by George Clooney, and especially Tilda Swinton. A Mighty Heart, not seen it, but I hear good things about it. $1 Million Baby, one of Clint Eastwood's best directorial efforts. It goes places you don't expect it to go, has some real dark turns in it. Great film, not as uplifting as you might want it to. Minority Report, this is a really good Steven Spielberg science fiction film based on a book by the guy who did the Blade Runner stuff, Philip K. Dick. Really good, strong science fiction, one of the best of the 90s. Was it the 90s or early noughties? I think it was the early 2002. There you go. Fact checker. Mission Impossible, I've got first one, second one, third one, and the fourth one. For me, the fourth one is probably the best. I do kind of like the third one. Depending on my mood, the third or the fourth one are the best. First one's really strong too, really good film. Second one's a bit, but as a guilty pleasure, you can stick it on and just be entertained by it. Miller's Crossing, there's an argument to be made for this being the Coen brothers' best film. For me, it's between this and Raising Arizona. Fantastic gangster film, one of the best gangster films ever made. Moneyball, this is directed by Bennett Miller, who's had recent success with Foxcatcher. This is his best film. It's written by Aaron Sorkin, who you'll probably know if you watch the first part of this video. He's my favourite writer. The script for this is amazing. Some really great themes in here about building a team out of people that you wouldn't expect to make the best team. It's just about not judging people on how they look, but on what they can actually do, what they can offer. Really fantastic film. Monster House, great animated movie, quite dark, Tim Burton-esque, but yeah, really funny as well. Good stuff. Monsters, very low budget film, debut by Gareth Edwards. Is it Gareth Edwards? Yes, Gareth Edwards, who recently directed Godzilla and is now in line to direct a Star Wars movie, I think. He did a really good job with this. If you knew what the budget was from this, and then you see the results that he got out of this, you just wouldn't believe it. It's a really good effort. And a lot of good drama in there as well. Monsters Ball, fantastic film. The performances in this are stunning. Halle Berry got an Oscar for Best Actress in this, and a year later, or the same year, I think it was a year later, she got a Razzie Award for Worst Actress, which is a shame because this is just a real showcase for her talent when she's given the right material. Great film, kind of makes me cry, really. It's just... And Heath Ledger's in this as well. It's quite poignant, but yeah, just Brilliant film by Mark Foster, who for me is one of the most underrated directors. Monsters Inc., Pixar film. It's good. It's quite entertaining. It's not one that I instantly think about when I'm trying to list the Pixar output, but when I do watch it, I am pleasantly surprised just by how good it is. Monsters vs. Aliens. Really like this film. Just a lot of fun, really. Yeah, just strong animation. Moon, brilliant film that really hinges on Sam Rockwell. He's in every second of this film. He's kind of the only character, really. There's a couple of peripherals and there's a voice of a computer, but really this whole film hangs on Rockwell and he does an outstanding job. He should have been nominated for an Oscar as far as I'm concerned, but there you go. Brilliant science fiction film. From the son of David Bowie, no less. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, just fun action film. Doug Liman, again, very good at action films. Just a lot of fun, really. It's not deep. There's nothing too deep in it, but just good, mindless action fun. Mr. Holland's Opus. Remember liking this film a lot when I was a kid. I saw it and it had quite an impact on me. That was the only time I've seen it. I've not seen it since buying this DVD, but I'm hoping it's going to have the same impact. Something tells me that maybe it won't. Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, brilliant film. As I said before, I'm a Frank Capra fan. This is one of his best. Really love it. I just love movies about characters that are just real, genuine, good people. And don't have to try hard to be a good person, and people around them, I don't know, they mistrust him because of just how genuinely nice he is. And I don't know, there's just something quaint about that really makes me wish more people were like that. And I don't know, just watch this film. It's really good. It's good for the soul. Mulan, really good Disney film. Not one of the best, but it's solid stuff. Munich, for me, Steven Spielberg's best work. Probably one of his most underseen films, I think. It's very hard-hitting, it's very grim, it has a very dark tone throughout, and you're not going to find a happy ending with this film. But it's very real, and yeah, it approaches the material very respectfully and leaves you with maybe more questions than it answers. Muppets Christmas Carol. Very good Christmas film, my wife's favourite Christmas film, and we usually watch this and It's a Wonderful Life every Christmas, so yeah, but really nice, good film. Muppets Caper, The Great Muppet Caper. I've not seen this actually. My wife's a really big Muppet fan, which is why we bought these, and I'm happy to watch them because I particularly liked this one, the new one. Obviously Amy Adams is going to draw me in because I like anything with her in, but just the wit on this film is it's so cleverly done, so modern. I won't use the word postmodern because I hate that word and I hate the use of it, but it really does bring the Muppets back into the modern world with quite a bang. Really funny, really irreverent, but also reverent at the same time. Really good stuff. My Big Fat Greek Wedding, yeah, not for me. My Name is Khan. My wife found it in a charity shop, really cheap. I think it was like buy 4 for £5 or something like that. So she made up the DVDs she bought with this one. So I've not seen it yet. It looks very Bollywood, which I've got nothing against. I've seen a couple of Bollywood films, but yeah, I may get around to that one day. Mystic River, again, another fine effort, directorially speaking, from Clint Eastwood. Brilliant performances all around, especially Laura Linney and Sean Penn, and maybe a little underrated Tim Robbins in this. He doesn't get as much attention as I think he should. Yeah, really good film. Nacho Libre, the director of this, Jared Hess, he made a film called... what is it? Napoleon Dynamite. I hated that film something rotten. That film just annoyed the heck out of me. But this I found funny, and it's the same kind of style, really, the same kind of humour, a little bit wacky. I've not seen it in a long time, but I think it probably hinges on Jack Black and the relationship with that he has with this. Who is this woman? Is it Paz Vega? Paz Vega? No, it's not Paz Vega. I don't know who it is, but the relationship is just nice that they have in that film, and I like it. My phone's ringing, so I'm just going to have to go and get it. Nanny McPhee double bill. So Nanny McPhee and Nanny McPhee in the Big Bang. I actually think that Nanny McPhee in the Big Bang, the sequel, is better than the original. They're good family films, very kind of Mary Poppins-esque, but better. Never liked Mary Poppins. I watched it again recently, still don't like it. But these are actually quite a good family film, and Emma Thompson's always good to watch. Ned Kelly. It's not one of the best films, but it got better on the second viewing, so I'd be willing to watch it again. There you go. The Negotiator, really good film, good thriller. Quite long, actually. F. Gary Gray directed this, but the two performances, Samuel L. Jackson and Kevin Spacey, really good. Kevin Spacey comes into this film really late, actually, a lot later than I remembered, but I watched this again recently, and he didn't come into it till about 45 minutes into the film, so... But yeah, it's still good. Cracking performances. The New World, for me, Terrence Malick's best film. I loved the atmosphere this film created. I've never watched a film that really made me feel this is how it was. This is how coming to America, settling in America in those very, very early days, this is how it was. And that's what I feel when I watch this film. I get the sense that almost that they've gone back in time and stuck a camera into Jonestown, and yeah, fantastic filmmaking. Ninja Assassin, absolute guilty pleasure if ever there was one. Incredibly violent, but just does exactly what it says on the tin. There are ninjas, there are assassins, and they fight, and it's just, what more do you want? No Country for Old Men, really good, strong Coen Brothers film, won the Best Picture Oscar. The ending left a lot of people cold. I'm kind of... Yeah, I liked the ending. I thought I'm not going to go into it because I'll be talking about it for ages, but it had a lot to say, I think, particularly from the perspective of Tommy Lee Jones's character. Really good film. No Reservations. I think I've seen this. I may have seen it in bits as my wife's been watching it. Not a terrible film, but not fantastic either. Notting Hill, very funny, I think, from what I remember. I've not seen it in years, but Roger Mitchell directed this, and he's made some really good films like Changing Lanes and Enduring Love. So yeah, good film. Rhys Ifans is really good in that, actually. Very funny. O, which is a modern retelling of the Shakespeare play Othello. Very good, quite surprising actually just how good this was. A lot darker than you might expect, and some really good support from Martin Sheen, who I really like, primarily because of The West Wing. Oblivion, starring Tom Cruise, really good science fiction film. A lot of people hate this film. A lot of people were down on it. It didn't get like a lot of tremendous reviews. I think it's quite stunning, particularly to look at. The visuals in it are just beautiful. But no, it's a good film. I enjoy it, and I'll quite happily watch it again. The Oceans trilogy, Oceans 11 is the best of the bunch, obviously, and it has diminishing returns. I don't think Oceans 12 is as bad as people make out, but Oceans 13 is quite forgettable. It's nice to see Al Pacino in there, but still, it's quite forgettable. This is a documentary called Official Rejection, which is... I obviously, being a filmmaker, I wanted to enter films into festivals and things, and I thought this would be a good watch, might enlighten me on the process, and it did. Not necessarily always in a positive way, but it's a good film. It's quite an eye-opener, but don't believe everything they tell you in it. Of Gods and Men, I've been told this is a fantastic film. One of my favourite critics, Mark Kermode, rated this as his favourite film of that year. I've not got around to seeing it yet, but I will get around to watching it at some point. Olympus Has Fallen, basically Die Hard for the modern generation. Really good. There's been so many films that have copied the Die Hard formula and never really lived up to it. This comes very close. I think this is just a real guilty pleasure. Gerard Butler's great in it, and yeah, it's just a really good action film. How they used to make them, which is helped by the fact that it retained the 15 certificate rather than being marketed at the 12A generation. Yeah, really good, solid fun. Charlton Heston's The Omega Man. The Omega Man, starring Charlton Heston. This is basically based on the book I Am Legend, which obviously Will Smith later starred in a remake of. So this is essentially the same film. I've not seen it yet, but I got it because of that reason. I wanted to see what they'd done with it earlier, so I will get around to that. One Fine Day, one of my favourite chick flicks. Really love this film, helped by the fact that it's got likeable stars such as Michelle Pfeiffer and George Clooney in there. Really hinges around them too. It's just, yeah, switch the brain off, stick it on, feel good. Good film. On the Waterfront, my favourite film from the 50s and one of my favourite films of all time. This had quite a lot of influence on Rocky. I don't know whether Sylvester Stallone has acknowledged that or not, but I think it's clearly there. But yeah, just really brilliant script, tremendous performance by Marlon Brando. Fantastic film with a really uplifting ending that just makes you want to cheer. Great stuff. And one of my favourite film characters, I can't remember the name of that character, but it's the priest that's in that film. Just a brilliant character. Open Range, really brilliant western by Kevin Costner, who excels at directing westerns. He directed this really brilliant film, one of the best shootouts ever put to the screen towards the end of the film. Great stuff. Give it a watch. Orphanage. It's got a Guillermo del Toro vibe about it, which is why his name is kind of all over it. He endorsed it essentially, but he didn't really have much to do with the making of it as such. But yeah, it's a really good film. It was J.A. Bayona. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, but I think he did the Ewan McGregor one, the Impossible, but I could be wrong on that. Fact check that. But this. It's a strong, scary ghost story, really. In the vein of the Guillermo del Toro film, what was the one set in the... That was kind of on a similar vein. Really can't remember what it's called. The Devil's Backbone, that's it. The Devil's Backbone. It's kind of got a similar vibe to it that had. Out of Africa, I bought it because it won the Best Picture Oscar, and I'm trying to work my way through all the Best Picture Oscars. Not seen it yet, but... looking forward to it. Out of Sight, Steven Soderbergh's best film for me. This really did begin the resurgence of George Clooney's career after the debacle of Batman and Robin. He gives a fine performance in this. The chemistry between him and Jennifer Lopez in this is fantastic. It's really hot. Yeah, really good script, really great performances from Don Cheadle as well, and Steve Zahn. Really good film, great fun. And a nice cameo by Michael Keaton, actually playing the same character he played from Jackie Brown. Spot that when that comes up, really good. Pale Rider, not seen it yet, but I'm an Eastwood fan, so I need to get around to watching that. Panic Room, really great, underrated David Fincher film. Out of all of David Fincher's work, this one is probably one of the ones that people don't rate as highly, but I think it's really great thriller. Fine performances, yeah, good stuff, very well directed. Whoop, dropping them all over the place. Pan's Labyrinth, Guillermo del Toro's best film. This is just a stunning piece of work. Some of the visuals in this are fantastic. The creature designs are absolutely brilliant. As I've said before, Guillermo del Toro excels at that kind of thing. But yeah, just a great film about just how monsters in reality, human beings, can be much more horrific than any monster we create or imagine in our heads, and just fantastic stuff, really good stuff. The Paper, it's a Ron Howard film. I've not seen since I was in my early 20s. I remember it being really good, and I do like Ron Howard's directorial work. I think he's a really strong director, so I'm looking forward to getting around to watching this again. Especially after watching Birdman, because this stars Michael Keaton, so I remember this being one of Michael Keaton's best. Paris Je t'aime, I've not seen it, but it's apparently a load of short films by world-renowned directors like Gus Van Sant and Alexander Payne, and the Coen brothers. So yeah, they all direct little sections of it apparently. So I'll give that a watch. Passion of the Christ, first time I watched this, had a huge impact on me. I just felt destroyed by the end of it. I was just like, it was really heavy first time seeing it. The effect has worn off over the years, the more you watch it. But it feels like a painting. It feels like an old painting. There's a certain sense of class to it, although it's very Catholic in its tone. There's a lot of emphasis given to Mary, but there you go. Still a good film. One of the best interpretations of the Jesus story, I think. Mall Cop, guilty pleasure. Me and my wife love watching this. We watched it again recently. We always laugh during it. It's not a fantastic film, but it's just, we can't help but laugh, and that's down to Kevin James. He's very good at physical comedy. Philadelphia, great film. I would say this is Tom Hanks' best performance. Really made me reevaluate the way I thought about various things. Just really good film. Much needed, I think. Particularly at the time in the early 90s. Piglet's a big movie. I bought this for my wife for her birthday. She's a fan of Winnie the Pooh. She's not a huge fan, but she likes the innocence of it, and so do I. I think it's extremely harmless fun for anyone with kids, and just very innocent, just quaint. The Pledge, this is a directorial effort from Sean Penn. Really good film. I've only seen it once, but I really liked Into the Wild, which is why I went back and bought this, just to check out again more of Sean Penn's work. But really good, strong thriller, quite hard hitting. Point Break, one of the best action films ever made. Kind of puts Fast and the Furious to shame, and it's been remade apparently. Like I say, it's already been remade in Fast and the Furious, but yeah, I'm not looking forward to the remake, to be honest. I think they should just leave it untouched. Prancer, not seen it, bought it because I thought it'd be something my wife would enjoy. Predators, I really like this film. I thought it got the Predator franchise back on track. It's the second best Predator film. Yeah, really good stuff, and Adrian Brody was quite kick-ass in this. He really beefed up for the role, and it was quite a surprise. Good film, I think. Prestige, fantastic Christopher Nolan film. It requires several viewings. It got better with each viewing for me. Just there's always something I pull out of it that I didn't pull out from before. So yeah, real good stuff. Pretty Woman. What can I say that hasn't already been said about Pretty Woman? It's definitely one of the ultimate chick flicks in it. I personally don't think it's Gary Marshall's best film. I think Frankie and Johnny is his best film, which I do own on DVD actually, but I've borrowed to someone and not got back, so I would have done that in my last video. Frankie and Johnny, one of the best chick flicks ever made, just so you know. Better than this, but this is still quite good. Pride and Glory, saw this at the cinema a while back, thought it was quite entertaining, quite good, good little thriller. And yeah, so I bought it on DVD, it's quite good. Princess and the Frog, I returned for Disney back to the 2D animation style. Probably a bit darker than a lot of other Disney films just because of the voodoo element. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but despite that, a really strong effort, I think. A really good film. Return to form, I'd say. Princess Raccoon, not seen it. Bought it because of Zhang Ji being in it. Really big fan of Zhang Ji. Still need to get around to watching that. Prince of Egypt, fantastic animated film. One of the best animated films. It'd certainly be in my top 10 animated films. Tells the biblical story really well. Quite a lot of really inventive visuals in there to get around some of the more violent aspects of the story. So yeah, really good stuff. Very strong. Prisoners. Oh man, that is a hard-hitting film. If you've got a weak constitution, don't watch this film. But if you want to see some fantastic performances by Jake Gyllenhaal and Hugh Jackman, and the other guy, I always forget his name, but he's a very strong performer. Paul Dano. Paul Dano's really good in this. Just this cast. I mean, look at this cast. Viola Davis, Maria Bello, Terrence Howard, Melissa Leo. One of the best ensemble casts you're going to find. All of those actors are top tier actors. Seriously, this is a really good film. Very dark, but really good. Professor Layton and the Eternal Diva. My wife loves these games. Is it PSP? I'm not a gamer at all. I think is it PSP that they play these on? I don't know. Someone comment below and let me know. But she's a real big fan of the Professor Layton games. So I saw this in a charity shop and thought, yeah, I've got to get that. I don't think we've seen it yet though. Prometheus. Loved it the first time around, thought wow, return to form for Ridley Scott, but it has diminished upon returns, so it's still a good film, still entertaining. I will watch this again, I know it, but yeah, it's not a patch on Alien, the original. Proposition, again, another hard-hitting film. This is a tough film to watch, but it's a stunning film, absolutely brilliant debut from what's his face, John Hillcoat, who is often responsible for very dark toned films, but this I think this is his best work, to be honest. Public Enemies, a Michael Mann film, really great film. Fantastic performances from the likes of Johnny Depp and Christian Bale. Again, a proper kind of role for Johnny Depp. That just makes me wish he did more like this, instead of doing the typical kind of makeup and high-pitched voice roles that he's kind of fallen into. But really strong film, really great visuals, fantastic shootouts. Typical Michael Mann, really. Punch Drunk Love. I'm going to say this is the best rom-com chick flick ever made. Only it's not a chick flick. Yeah, it's bizarre. It kind of has all the elements of a chick flick and subverts them in crazy ways. It's just, the tone is so Paul Thomas Anderson. I just love it. Watch it. Philip Seymour Hoffman in this film is fantastic, and this is without doubt the best performance that Adam Sandler has ever and probably will ever give. Brilliant film. Push, didn't like this film the first time I saw it at all, to be honest. Caught it again on TV and thought, my goodness, this is actually a really good film. So I must have been in the real wrong mood when I watched this the first time, but really good stuff. It would be nice to have gotten a sequel, and I love Chris Evans as well. Chris Evans is fantastic. Quiz Show, not seen it yet. I like the blurb on the back. It sounds interesting. Rachel Getting Married. Saw the first half hour of this at the cinema when I used to work as a projectionist, and was very intrigued by it, so kind of want to get around to watching the rest of it. And Jonathan Demme's quite a good filmmaker, responsible for the Silence of the Lambs and Philadelphia, so looking forward to watching that. Ransom, again, Ron Howard. This is a real strong effort from him. Great performance by Mel Gibson. Real gripping thriller. One of the best of this kind of ilk, basically. Rashomon, Akira Kurosawa, one of his best films, tells a tale from loads of different perspectives. Just really great film. And Red, not that keen on the second one. I can take it or leave it. This one isn't fantastic, but it's a really good, solid action film. Yeah, it's got a lot of fun moments. There you go. Red Belt, for me, this is just a very underrated film. I really love this film. I just the character played by Chiwetel Ejiofor is, again, it's one of them characters I was talking about who's just inherently good, and I just love those characters. And his performance in this film is outstanding. Everyone knows he's a fantastic actor from the likes of 12 Years a Slave. But, I mean, the first time I saw him was in Serenity, and I knew right off the bat what a fantastic actor he was just from that. But again, he's great in this. Real brilliant film. Like I say, very underrated. Not seen by as many people as it should. Redcliffe, a John Woo film when he returned back to China to make a film over there, and probably his finest work, I'd say. I'd really love to see the extended edition, which I've not seen. This is just the theatrical cut. I'd love to see the extended one, but that is real stunning, visually stunning film. Rescue Dawn, brilliant performance by Christian Bale. He lost an awful lot of weight for this film, as he's often prone to do. Yeah, Werner Herzog, just a great war film, real good stuff, and quite emotional in certain parts. Guilty pleasure time, Resident Evil. They're not good films, are they? No one can argue that the Resident Evil films are good, but they're just, they really are the very definition of guilty pleasure. I could criticise it from a reviewer's standpoint and rip it apart, but for whatever reason, I know I'm going to watch it, and I know I'm just going to switch my brain off and enjoy it. So there's that one. There's the second one from the franchise. I do actually have the third and the fourth one on Blu-ray. We'll get to them. But yeah, just what can you say, really? Guilty pleasure. Ang Lee does it again with Ride with the Devil. He goes into a different genre, the Western this time. One of the best Westerns ever made. I've not seen it in quite a while, actually, but yeah, just real stunning film. Some elements of this that remind me of Cold Mountain, actually. Cold Mountain came after, but really great film. Highly recommend it if you like westerns. Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Never been a Planet of the Apes fan. It was just one of them things that didn't really catch on for me until this film. This film is brilliant. The way it makes you empathise and identify with an ape is just a real feat in filmmaking, I think. And the sequel to this, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which I don't have yet, is even better. Great film. River Wild, real good thriller starring Kevin Bacon and Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep's always good, so yeah, good stuff. Directed by Curtis Hanson, the director of LA Confidential, which is one of my favourite films. Real good stuff. He's a very good director. The Road Home, an early film by Zhang Yimou, an early film for Zhang Ji, that is, directed by Zhang Yimou, who did Hero, House of Flying Daggers, that kind of thing. Really good film, just a romance really, set during a war. It's really good stuff. Road to Perdition, Sam Mendes, really good gangster film, probably in my top 10 gangster films. Really love the visuals on this. It's one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen just to look at. Great stuff, really good cinematography. Robin Hood, Kevin Costner version, Prince of Thieves. Saw this film at the cinema with my brothers when it first came out. I must have been 12 or something. It was a real good fun, and I must have watched it tons of times when I was a teenager. Not watched it since buying it on DVD, but yeah, I just remember it being good fun, particularly from Alan Rickman, who just makes the best villain, really, doesn't he? Anything he's in as a villain, he's just a really great villain. Rocky, classic stuff, really great film, really heartfelt, really good story about being on the bottom and just like not letting that kind of diminish your drive, really, and just showing you anyone can achieve something, and you don't have to win to have achieved something either. Really good stuff. Rocky Balboa, yeah, like I say, I've got the first one and the last one. All the Rocky films in between I don't really like, to be honest. They're a bit too 80s for me, and don't really say anything new either. But this one, I think, kind of gets back on form to what the first film was. Really good, I think. Not quite as good as the first one, but still good. Royal Tenenbaums, probably my favourite Wes Anderson film. Really quirky, lots of characters in it. I couldn't tell you what this film is about because there's so much going on in it, but it's just real fun stuff about family. The Eagle, starring Rudolph Valentino. I've not watched it. My wife picked it up for me in a charity shop. She thought that maybe I'd be interested in a classic. One day I'll get around to watching it. I think it's a Russian film. But yeah, there you go. Running with Scissors, I haven't seen it. I bought this just because of the acting talent that's on show here. Annette Bening, Brian Cox, Joseph Fiennes, Evan Rachel Wood, Alec Baldwin, Gwyneth Paltrow. I hadn't heard of this film, to be honest, and then I just saw it on DVD, quite cheap in a charity shop, and thought, with that amount of talent in, it's got to be worth a watch. Rushmore, again, Wes Anderson, one of his best. Early, I think this was his second film after Bottle Rocket. Really good stuff. Cracking performance by Bill Murray. Great stuff. Safe House, really great action film. A lot better than I was expecting it to be. It's a lot of the reviews just were kind of middling. They were just like, yeah, it's a good action film, but it's not going to blow you away. But I think this is real solid stuff, and I think Ryan Reynolds gives a great performance in it and shows that he's got what it takes to be the lead in an action role. Good stuff. Sahara, it's not great. It wants to be Indiana Jones, but it isn't really. Salt, again, it's a good film. It wants to be the female version of Bourne. It isn't. It's all right. It's entertaining enough. Sanjuro, this is my favourite Kurosawa film. I must confess I've not seen a right lot of his. I think I've seen about 5 or 6. But out of those that I've seen, this is my favourite. Just a real good samurai flick with one of the most memorable final sequences. I will probably do a Hot Shots video actually on the final shot in this film. It's a real good film. It builds a lot of tension. Great stuff. Save the Last Dance. I don't remember watching this. I think we've got a few dance movies again for the wife. I I remember the one, Step Up. I remember Step Up, which I thought was actually quite good, quite entertaining, but I don't think I've seen this one. Saving Private Ryan. Is it the best war film ever made? I think it is. This is the best war film ever made. Scanner Darkly, a film by Richard Linklater, uses rotoscoping, which is a form of animation, which basically you draw over film, which is why the animation looks very film-like. But yeah, really good stuff. A bit. The style of the film suits the material in it, the themes in the film. There's a lot of it's all about drugs really, so that style really suits it. Robert Downey Jr. is pretty good in this, as is Keanu Reeves. It's a good film. I've only seen it once though, so I can't remember a right lot about it. Science of Sleep, a Michel Gondry film, not seen it, bought it because of Michel Gondry, because I liked Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind so much. We'll get around to watching it. Scott Pilgrim should have been seen by far more people than it was. It just wasn't a hit at the cinema by any stretch of the imagination, but it should have been. This is, for me, Edgar Wright's best film so far. It's just really great, comic book style, fun, good stuff. Secretariat, not seen it yet, but who doesn't like a good horse movie? Seven, one of the best serial killer films ever made. Not David Fincher's best, I think that honour goes to Zodiac, but this is still 10 out of 10 stuff. Real great relationship between Morgan Freeman's character and Brad Pitt's character. Fantastic. 17 again, very underrated. Really like this. It's a guilty pleasure, admittedly. I think Zac Efron is a good talent. I don't like High School Musical. I'd rather shoot myself in the head than watch them, but I can't deny that Zac Efron is a talent, and I like him in this film. I like this film quite a lot. It's a guilty pleasure. Shakespeare in Love. I picked this up really cheap in a charity shop just because I want to own the Best Picture Oscar winners. For me, this is one of the biggest... I don't think it should have won Best Picture. I don't think it should have even been nominated. Yeah, one of the biggest kind of upsets in Oscar history, really. It's just so average. The production design on it is really fantastic, really beautiful, but as a film, it's just so average. Shawshank Redemption, on the other hand, that's a film that should have won Best Picture. That's a film that is in most people's top 10 lists. Thoroughly deserving. Great film. Sherlock Holmes, didn't like it as so much the first time I watched it at the cinema, but I think where I saw it, the projection was very dark and it kind of lost some of its impact. Caught it again on DVD, really enjoyed it, made me want to go out and get the sequel. Dropping my DVDs. So I bought the sequel as an ex-rental copy. Sherlock Holmes, the Game of Shadows, not as good as the first film, primarily because Moriarty just isn't in it enough, but yeah, it's alright. It's a good film, and I look forward to seeing a third one if that ever gets made. The Shining, best horror film ever made. I'm not a horror film fan. I don't go out of my way to watch horror films. I try to avoid them, in fact, if I can, so maybe I'm not the best person to judge, but if I had to label one film as the best horror film ever made, it would be this. Sideways, Alexander Payne's best film, really funny, just some great character dynamics in there. Just Paul Giamatti is fantastic, as is Hayden Church, what's his face? Thomas Hayden Church, really funny stuff, and Virginia Madsen gives a really heartfelt performance. Great stuff. Signs, a fantastic film by M. Night Shyamalan when he was still on form. Really great performances all round. Possibly a bit of an iffy twist when you consider that aliens that are allergic to water come to a planet that is made up of 2/3 water, but that aside, really great stuff. Has a lot to say about faith, I think. Sin City, I saw the sequel recently. It's nowhere near as good as this. It kind of lost its impact since this. I think they made it a bit too late, really. This is very violent, very dark, but I don't know, I liked it when it came out. Just the visuals, just the style of it. It was something I'd never seen before. And I don't think this is a style that's here to stay. I don't think it has worked all that well in other films. But I'm happy to watch this one because I think it works very well in this. Sisterhood of the Travelling Pants. 6 Days and 7 Nights. Wasn't looking forward to seeing this. I bought it because my wife said it's one of them films she used to watch quite a lot when she was younger, so we bought it. And I was actually pleasantly surprised. It's not a great film, but it's entertaining. I got a lot of enjoyment out of it. Sixth Sense, M. Night Shyamalan's best. He's never done anything as good as this, but then again, how many filmmakers have done something as good as this? I think this is in my top 20 films of all time. It's stunning, brilliant performance by all the actors involved, great twist, but it's got two endings really. There's the whole ending with Bruce Willis and his wife, and then the ending with the kid and his mum. And I think that ending has a lot more heart in it, a lot more emotion in it. It certainly gets a lot more emotional response out of me. So that's why I think this film is much more than that twist ending. A lot of people write it off afterwards saying, well, once you take away that twist ending, there's not really much there, is there? Disagree completely. Fantastic film. Snow White and the Huntsman. The central performance by Kristen Stewart, who I think isn't as bad as a lot of people make out, but in this particular, her central performance is a little bit limp, and I think Charlize Theron over-eggs it a little bit. However, the visuals in this film are fantastic, really beautiful visuals, great stuff. Social Network, brilliant film, David Fincher at his best, script by Aaron Sorkin, so it was bound to be good. Really humorous, really well presented, just a film about a guy who essentially has no friends and is responsible for creating the one program that is designed for making friends, which is kind of ironic. Really good film. Couldn't praise that enough, to be honest. Source Code, love this film, great little science fiction film. It's quite a short film from what I remember. It's only an hour and a half, 89 minutes, and it benefits from that running time because the pace is just so frenetic. It just races along, and before you know it, it's over and you have a really good time, really enjoyable. Not so sure about the ending. I think it should have ended when the image freezes at the end. I think it should have stayed on that image and then gone off, but beyond that, really good stuff. From the director of Moon. Speed Racer, really liked this film. No one went to see this film. When I worked at the cinema, I was a projectionist at the cinema, this film came out, we put it on, and the first couple of showings, literally no one turned up. This was a weekend, no one turned up to see it at all. They took it off straight away because it wasn't making any money. It did abysmal box office, and it's by the Wachowskis, who did the Matrix films, and I think it's really underrated. I think it's too intelligent for children. It's marketed as a children's film, and that's probably its downside, really. I don't think a lot of kids will get a lot of the politics and stuff that's going on in this, but it's just really colourful, fun, great action scenes. It's a bizarre film, but for whatever reason I like it. I am a fan of the Wachowskis, and I think they get too much flack. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, the first one, very good film when I first saw it. It has diminished somewhat over the years, primarily because of the special effects that let it down. But yeah, it's still a good superhero film. Spider-Man 2, for many people, one of the best superhero films. Again, I think this too has diminished somewhat because of the special effects. And I find Kirsten Dunst, I've got Kristen Stewart in my head for some reason, Kirsten Dunst is a little bit whiny by this point. Not so much in the first one, I could take it in the first one, but her character by this point just becomes really whiny and annoying. And I never thought that the first time I saw it, but the more I watch it on DVD, she just irritates me. And that's nothing down to Kirsten Dunst, because I like her as an actress. I've seen her in many films that I really like her in, but I just think the way her character was written in this, it just gets a bit whiny. But it's still a good film, and probably still the best Spider-Man film. Spider-Man 3, not as bad as everyone makes out, but they do cram far too many villains in there, and they should have cut that stupid dancing sequence and the whole nonsense with Peter Parker going emo. But yeah, it's still entertaining, still worth a watch, I think, if you're a Spider-Man fan. Spirited Away, one of the best animated films ever made. Fantastic story. You watch it and you feel like you're in a dream, really. It's just the atmosphere that it creates is really brilliant, really well made. Stand By Me, fantastic. Remember this as a child, particularly remember the puking scene. But it's just got a lot of heart, and just the relationship between the four lads in this feels very believable. It feels like the kind of relationship I had with my friends when I was of that age. It's just, yeah, it's really believable. Great film, based on a Stephen King book. Stander, I like Thomas Jane. I've not watched this film yet, but I bought it because I like Thomas Jane. Starship Troopers, it's not a great film, but it is at the same time. It's weird. It's like Paul Verhoeven purposefully shot it as if it was like a really cheap kind of film. But that's not to say the special effects are rubbish, because they're not. They're fantastic. But yeah, it just straddles this line between being really bad but really good at the same time. It has a lot to say about the media and how it kind of reports on war and recruits people and things. But yeah, it's a good film, really good. Stardust, Matthew Vaughn directed this. Again, Michelle Pfeiffer's in it, which is the reason I was drawn to it. I didn't like Sienna Miller in this. I think she's come on really well recently. She's done really stretched herself in some roles recently, but yeah, I didn't like her in this, but liked her more recently. But this is a really fun film. It's a little bit all over the place. The structure of it is a little bit off for me. It kind of seems to just, it doesn't have any clear structure for me. But that being said, it's an awful lot of fun. Really good script by Jane Goldman and fantastically directed by Matthew Vaughn. Star Trek: The Slow Motion Picture. Yeah, just speed it up, guys. Come on. Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, one of the best Star Trek films, probably certainly of the older generation and the next generation. This is the best Star Trek film. For me, I like what Abrams did with the franchise probably a little bit more, but until that point, this was the best Star Trek film and is still one of the best. Search for Spock takes a little bit of dip in quality, but still a lot of fun. Undiscovered Country, The Voyage Home, Star Trek 4, Voyage Home. This is the one I remember most from my childhood. It was always on, and I liked that. It was really good. Just that whole taking these people we know and love from this high concept science fiction series and sticking them in our time. It was just and just watching them deal with that. It was really good fun. Star Trek 5, The Final Frontier, maybe not as bad as it's made out to be. I think I saw it as a kid and it was atrocious, really bad, one of the worst films I'd ever seen. But for the sake of completism, I bought it because I like all the Star Trek films. So when I watched it again in my 20s on DVD, it wasn't as bad as I remember it. That's a ringing indictment if ever there was one, but there you go. Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country, again one of the best Star Trek films. This actually is directed by Nicholas Meyer, so it shares the same director as Wrath of Khan, so it's no surprise to me that this is one of the good ones. They should bring him back, to be honest, to do a few more. Star Trek Generations probably doesn't get as much love from Trekkies and from just movie lovers, really, as the older films, but I think this is really good. It's a good entry into the series, one of my favourites, and I think Malcolm McDowell as the villain is really good. Star Trek First Contact, this is the best of the Next Generation films, really good stuff. It's not particularly well directed by Jonathan Frakes. I wouldn't say he's a fantastic director, but he handles material well, and I think the script is really strong. The performance from Patrick Stewart in this is really brilliant. His big speech that he gives to the woman, I can't remember her name in this actually, let me just look that up. It is Alfre Woodward? I don't know her name, but the woman, the basically the Moby Dick scene when they're talking about Moby Dick and he goes off the rails, really good scene, really strong stuff, great performances all around in that one. Star Trek Insurrection, very underrated, I think. It's a good story. It kind of feels a bit like a double episode, just with a bigger budget. But if you're a Trekkie, I think you'd love it. And I thought it was a really good story. Had some good moments in it. And the final one in the Next Generation Crew series, Nemesis, not great. Got Tom Hardy in this, who isn't good in this at all, really. If you'd have told me when this first came out that this guy would one day play Bane and actually being one of the best actors that we currently have, I would not have believed you. This isn't a great film. It kind of rehashes Wrath of Khan in many ways, but nowhere near as good. Best Star Trek film for me is this one. A lot of Star Trek fans will probably hate me for that, but I just think what J.J. Abrams did with this, what he did with the franchise, was really fantastic. He brought it back in such a cool way. Great film. I do have the sequel, but I've borrowed that out to someone. I've not got it back yet, but Into the Darkness I felt was not quite as good as Abrams' first effort. I think it was very predictable in many parts of it, but it was still strong, still a good action film. Step up, of all the dance movies that are out there, of which I had to watch many when I was a projectionist, because I got lumbered with them, this is probably one of the best, if not the best. It's not a brilliant film, but it follows the same formula that all dance movies follow, but it does it in a reasonably classy way. Stick It, I've not seen it, so it can stick it. The Sting won the Best Picture Oscar, which is why I bought it. It's a good film. It's probably lost some of its impact now, I think. Two good performances from the leads, but yeah, it's alright. It's a good film. Sunshine, Danny Boyle's best film for me. I love it. It's a brilliant science fiction film. Goes well off the rails at the end, which loses a lot of people, I think, but not me. I thought it was quite appropriate. I thought it had a lot to say by doing so. Yeah, really good film. Oh. Super 8, another great science fiction film. One that I didn't like as much the first time I watched it as I do now. I just think it's got a lot of charm, and with each viewing that I watch it gets better. And so yeah, I'm becoming a real big fan of J.J. Abrams. Great stuff. What is with me dropping all these DVDs? Superman the movie. Richard Donner pretty much invented the modern day superhero film with this film. It was a long time before Hollywood was able to recapture what Donner did with this film with other superheroes. It was Tim Burton's Batman, I think, was really the next one that was able to achieve what Donner did with this. Yeah, just basically the template for the modern day superhero film. Superman 2, arguably better than the first film. I've got both the Richard Lester cut and the Richard Donner cut. I think the Donner cut is superior. It's a shame he didn't really get to finish the film when he was actually shooting it. But yeah, it's a good film. I like it. Superman Returns, very underrated, I think. I don't understand the backlash that this film got. I do think it should have had more action in it, granted, but I really would have loved to have seen what Bryan Singer would have done with a sequel. I was a bit gutted that it got so much hate, to be honest. Superman, the Last Son of Krypton. This is essentially just 3 episodes of the series, the first 3 episodes of the series put together to make a film, which is actually quite good because the animation is really good, the story is really good, and yeah, there's a lot of really good action in there. TV series shouldn't be in there. Superman Doomsday, I've heard a lot of people don't like this film. I think it's really good. Nice little animated film, lots of action, very action heavy. They've obviously changed a lot of the original story from the comic books, which is probably why people don't like it that much. I don't care about that all that much. I think when you adapt something into a film, you have to make changes, and I think it's really good. Superman Batman Public Enemies, it's alright, it's entertaining, it's not one of the strongest stories, it has some elements in it that are just too unbelievable, too far out there it just takes me out of the film, I think, as it did with the comic book version of it. Superman Batman Apocalypse, on the other hand, is a much stronger release, has a clear villain in it that's well, it's Darkseid, one of the biggest villains in comic books, but yeah, just a much stronger story. Fantastic. I've got a box set here with a load of Superman films in. Superman Unbound, that was the Brainiac one, wasn't it? That was alright, it's entertaining. It's got the Doomsday one in as well. Superman versus the Elite, not a good film, I don't think. Probably the worst of the DC animated movies I've seen. And it's got the others in that I've just mentioned. Surrogates, really good little science fiction film, I think. I think people maybe don't give it the credit it deserves. I think it's strong, it's entertaining, it moves along at quite a fast pace, and it's certainly better than Jonathan Mosto's other effort, Terminator 3. Okay, so that's the end of part 2. Like I said, I had to split this video into 2. Join me next time for part 3. I hope you enjoyed this, but until then, thanks for watching. More clop.